The war had lasted too long. For 20 years, the Galactic Union had fought against the ruthless Scifi, an insectoid species that never seemed to run out of soldiers. Every battle felt the same. Victories were small, losses were great, and no real progress was made. The war was dragging on, and many believed it would never end. Commander Rallin of the Union forces stood in the war room, watching the holographic map. Red markers showed Scifi strongholds, and blue dots represented Union troops. The red outnumbered the blue everywhere. "We need reinforcements," Admiral Vela said. "Our soldiers are exhausted. Morale is low. If we don't receive backup soon, we will lose Sector 7. Commander Raylan sighed. "We've already sent out requests for help, but everyone is stretched thin." The room fell silent. No one had a solution. The Scifi were relentless, and no species in the Union had warriors strong enough to defeat them in direct combat. Then the message came. A hologram flickered to life, showing a young officer in a crisp black uniform. His face was calm, his posture straight. His nameplate read Cadet Leader Darren. "We received your distress call," Darren said. "Earth has authorized the deployment of Deathworld Cadets." The war room erupted in whispers. "Humans," one officer murmured. "They're sending cadets." Admiral Vela frowned. "We asked for soldiers, not students." Cadet Leader Darren did not react. His voice remained steady. "We may be students, but we are trained for war. We will arrive in 3 days. Prepare for deployment." The hologram cut off, leaving the room in stunned silence. Commander Raylan shook his head. "Earth is a death world. Yes, their people are stronger than most. But sending cadets, this is a mistake." No one disagreed. But in 3 days, they would see the truth for themselves. The Deathworld Cadets were coming. And war would never be the same again. 3 days later, the Union base on Outpost 46 was filled with tension. Soldiers lined up near the landing zone, waiting for the human reinforcements. No one knew what to expect. A massive black transport ship descended from the sky, its engines humming with quiet power. The ship landed smoothly, and a ramp extended to the ground. A moment later, the Deathworld Cadets stepped out. They were young, too young, some thought. The oldest among them looked barely 20, yet they moved with a confidence that was unusual for recruits. Their uniforms were simple, black with silver stripes on their shoulders. Each carried a compact rifle on their back, but they didn't look like they needed weapons to be dangerous. At the front stood Cadet Leader Darren. His expression was calm, his sharp eyes scanning the gathered Union officers. He walked forward and saluted. "Cadet Leader Darren, reporting for duty," he said. Commander Raylan hesitated before returning the salute. "You're younger than I expected." Darren did not react. Age does not matter. Experience does. Raylan exchanged glances with Admiral Vela. She stepped forward. "Your message said you were trained for war. But this is not a training exercise. The Scifi are ruthless. We've lost many experienced soldiers. How do you expect a group of cadets to make a difference?" Darren's lips twitched slightly, not quite a smile. "Show us the battlefield. You will have your answer." Admiral Vela studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Fine. Briefing room. Now, the strategy meeting." Inside the war room, the cadets stood silently as Admiral Vela activated the holographic battle map. The Scifi strongholds glowed red, surrounding the Union's last few blue positions. "Our forces are spread thin," Vela said. "The Scifi attack in large numbers. They don't fear death. Our weapons work, but they are too fast, too aggressive. We need to hold Sector 7, or the entire front will collapse." Darren studied the map. Then he pointed at a narrow canyon leading to the enemy base. "They attack in swarms, correct? We will force them through this passage." Rallin frowned. "That canyon is a death trap." Darren nodded. "For them, yes." The room fell silent. Another cadet, a girl named Mira, spoke up. The Xilari rely on overwhelming numbers, but they have a weakness. They don't adapt quickly. If we control their movement, we control the fight. Darren looked at Admiral Vela. Give us a unit. A small one. Let us prove ourselves. Vela hesitated. The idea of sending cadets into battle seemed wrong. But something about them, something in their eyes, made her pause. They were not afraid. Finally, she nodded. You'll get a unit. You have one chance. If you fail, we pull you back. Darren met her gaze. We won't fail. Preparing for battle. As the meeting ended, the cadets walked to the armory. The Union soldiers watched them with doubt and curiosity. A few whispered among themselves. They don't look special. They're just kids. This is a mistake. Darren and his team ignored them. They moved with quiet efficiency, checking weapons and loading gear. Unlike the other soldiers, they didn't wear bulky armor. Their suits were light and flexible, built for speed and endurance. One Union soldier finally stepped forward. His name was Sergeant Olan, a grizzled veteran who had fought the Xilari for years. He crossed his arms. You kids think you can fight better than us. Darren met his gaze. We don't think. We know. Olan snorted. Prove it. Darren reached for his belt and pulled out a small training knife. He flipped it in his hand before tossing it to Olan. Attack me. Olan frowned. What? Darren stood still. Attack me. The room fell silent. Soldiers turned to watch. Olan hesitated, then shrugged. All right, kid. Your funeral. He lunged. But before anyone could react, Darren moved. 1 second, he was standing still. The next, he had sidestepped Olan's attack, grabbed his wrist, and twisted, gently, but firmly. Olan gasped as the knife flew from his hand. Darren caught it midair and held it up. The entire room was silent. Darren handed the knife back. We are not like you. We were trained on a death world, where everything fights to survive. You will see soon enough. Olan stared at him, rubbing his wrist. Then slowly he nodded, respect in his eyes. Darren turned to his cadets. Gear up. We deploy at dawn. Tomorrow, the war would change. At dawn, the Deathworld Cadets stood at the edge of Sector 7, ready for battle. The air was thick with tension. The canyon stretched before them, narrow, rocky, and quiet. Too quiet. Everyone knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. Union soldiers filled the trenches behind the cadets, watching them with doubt. Many still didn't believe a group of cadets could survive, let alone win. Commander Raylan stood beside Cadet Leader Darren, his face serious. The Xilari will be here soon. If they break through this canyon, they'll overrun our base. You still think your plan will work? Darren adjusted his rifle, calm as ever. It will work. Raylan shook his head. I hope you're right, Cadet. If not, we're all finished. The first wave. The warning sirens blared. Xilari forces had arrived. From the ridge, Mira spotted movement. Thousands of insect-like warriors swarming toward the canyon. Their chitinous bodies glinted in the pale light, and their sharp claws tore across the rocky ground. They're coming, she said quietly. Darren raised his hand. Positions. The cadets moved fast, without hesitation. Each one took their place along the canyon walls. They weren't nervous. They had trained for moments like this. On Earth, a death world, danger was a part of life. As the Xilari reached the canyon entrance, Darren gave a single command. Engage. The air filled with gunfire. Union soldiers fired from the trenches, but the cadets' precision was unmatched. Each shot found its mark, cutting down Xilari before they could advance. The insects charged forward, but the narrow canyon slowed them, exactly as Darren planned. Mira activated a sonic trap, and a high-pitched pulse echoed through the rocks. Xilari warriors stumbled, their sensitive hearing overwhelmed. In those few seconds of confusion, the cadets struck harder. Sergeant Olan, watching from the trenches, shook his head in disbelief. They're cutting through them like nothing. But the Xilari weren't finished. More came. A second wave, larger and faster, pushed through the bodies of the fallen. Darren didn't flinch. Phase 2. Outsmarting the enemy. A cadet named Taro triggered a set of shock mines hidden beneath the rocks. Blue energy burst through the canyon floor, striking the charging Xilari. Hundreds collapsed instantly. They're adapting, Mira warned. The next wave will be smarter. Darren nodded. Let them adapt. We'll still be faster. The third wave came harder, with armored Xilari leading the charge. Their claws slashed through the rocks, and their bodies were tougher. Normal weapons barely scratched them. Union soldiers tensed. This was the wave that had broken their defenses before. But Darren was ready. He lifted his rifle and fired a disruptor round, a new weapon designed by Earth engineers. The shot struck the lead Xilari, and in seconds, the armor shattered. The creature fell with a loud thud. Switch to disruptors, Darren ordered. The cadets moved like clockwork, each adjusting their weapons. The next volley tore through the armored Xilari, breaking their advance. Commander Raylan stared in shock. How are they doing this? Admiral Vela, watching from a command post, smiled for the first time in weeks. They're Deathworlders, Commander. Their entire world is a battlefield. This is nothing to them. Turning the tide. For hours, the cadets held the canyon. No matter how many Xilari came, they never broke. Their movements were precise, their teamwork perfect. As the sun began to set, the ground fell quiet again. The Xilari had stopped coming. Darren lowered his rifle and scanned the horizon. No more movement. No more swarms. The battle was over. He activated his communicator. Sector 7 secure. In the Union trenches, soldiers erupted in cheers. For the first time in years, they had not only survived, they had won. Sergeant Olan approached Darren, his face no longer doubtful. I was wrong about you, kid. You saved us. Darren gave a small nod. We did what we came to do. As the cadets regrouped, Mira stood beside him. They'll be back, she said softly. Darren's eyes hardened. Let them come. We'll be ready. Far above, in the darkness of space, Xilari commanders received the report. For the first time, they faced an enemy they could not overwhelm. The war was no longer in their favor. The Deathworld Cadets had arrived. And nothing would ever be the same again. The stars shimmered above Outpost 46, but there was no peace. Deep beneath the surface, the Union base buzzed with activity. Engineers repaired broken defenses, medics treated the wounded, and soldiers whispered about the impossible victory the Deathworld Cadets had delivered. In the command room, Commander Raylan stood at the center, watching the battle map. For the first time in months, the red Xilari markers had stopped advancing, but no one believed the enemy was finished. Cadet leader Darren stood beside him, calm as always. Mira and Taro flanked him, their sharp eyes scanning every detail on the map. They're planning something, Raylan said quietly. They don't retreat without a reason. They're testing us, Darren replied. His voice was steady, but there was a hint of anticipation beneath it. They won't make the same mistake again. Admiral Vela entered the room, her face serious. Satellite scans confirm it, she said. A massive Xilari fleet is moving toward this sector. They're preparing for an all-out assault. The room fell silent. If the Xilari broke through, nothing would stop them from destroying the outpost and the entire front line. How long do we have? Darren asked. 24 hours, Vela said. Maybe less. Darren nodded. Then we prepare. The Deathworld way. While Union soldiers repaired the outer defenses, the cadets worked on something else. Traps. In the rocky canyon, where they had won their first battle, Mira planted sonic disruptors, while Taro set up kinetic mines. These weren't standard Union weapons. They were custom-made, designed by Earth's best engineers for extreme conditions. As they worked, Sergeant Olan approached Darren. The veteran's usual doubt was gone, replaced by respect. "You really think these traps will hold them?" Olan asked. "They won't hold them," Darren said, tightening a sensor panel. "They'll break them." Olan raised an eyebrow. "And if they don't?" Darren glanced at him. "Then we fight the old way." Olan chuckled softly. "I'm starting to think your way is worse." Darren only smiled. A different kind of training. In the barracks, Union soldiers watched the cadets with curiosity. These humans didn't rest like ordinary recruits. Instead of sleeping, they trained, again and again. Mira ran combat drills, pushing her body to its limits. Taro adjusted weapons, making sure everything worked perfectly. Even Darren, calm and calculating, joined the hand-to-hand sparring matches. A young Union soldier named Rico finally spoke up. "Why do you train so much? You already beat the Xilari once." Mira paused, wiping sweat from her brow. "Because they'll come back stronger. And if we're not better, we lose." Rico frowned. "But you're just cadets. How did you get this strong?" Taro laughed quietly. "We grew up on Earth. Even our oceans try to kill us." Darren stood, finishing his The battlefield was quiet. Too quiet. After the cadets' victory in the canyon, the Xilari retreated. For 3 days, there was no sign of them. Union soldiers wanted to believe the enemy was broken, but the Deathworld Cadets knew better. In the command room of Outpost 46, Cadet Leader Darren stood beside Commander Raylan and Admiral Vila, studying the holographic map. Every sector was still on alert. "They're planning something bigger," Darren said. His voice was calm, but his sharp eyes never left the map. Commander Raylan frowned. "They lost thousands in that canyon. Why not fall back?" "Because losing doesn't stop them," Mira said quietly. She stood at Darren's side, arms crossed. "They study us. Every time we win, they learn how to fight better." Admiral Vela nodded. "Earth's reports say that Xilari are a hive species. When one part of the swarm adapts, the entire army improves." Darren turned to Taro, who was analyzing recent scans. "Any sign of movement?" Taro shook his head. "No surface activity. But there's something strange." He zoomed in on the map, pointing to a deep valley near Sector 7. "Energy readings here. Strong ones." Commander Raylan's brow furrowed. "That valley was empty last week." Darren's expression hardened. "Not anymore. Whatever they're building, it's their next move. Into the unknown." Hours later, a small reconnaissance team moved through the rocky valley. The Deathworld Cadets led the way, their steps silent and calculated. Darren signaled for a halt. He knelt beside a ridge, scanning the horizon through his visor. Nothing moved. But the air felt heavy. "Something's wrong," Mira whispered. "It's too quiet." Taro adjusted his scanner, frowning. "The energy readings are stronger. Whatever they're hiding is just ahead." Darren nodded. "We move in." They crept forward until they reached the edge of the valley, and froze. Below, hidden beneath layers of camouflage, was a massive Xilari structure. Strange machines hummed, glowing with pulsing green light. Around the structure, Xilari engineers worked quickly, their claws moving with precision. "It's a weapon, isn't it?" Taro said softly. Darren's jaw tightened. "No, it's worse." Mira's voice was tense. "They're building a breach gate, a portal." Taro's eyes widened. "If they finish it, they can bring in their main hive from across the galaxy." Darren didn't hesitate. "We stop them. Tonight." The plan. Back at Outpost 46, the cadets laid out their plan to Commander Raylan and Admiral Vila. The room was tense as Darren spoke. "We can't wait for reinforcements," he said. "If they activate the breach gate, this entire sector will fall." Raylan shook his head. "A direct attack would be suicide. They outnumber us 10 to 1. Darren's expression didn't change. "We're not attacking directly. He pointed to the map. Their power core is exposed. If we destroy it, the gate fails. We need a small, fast team to get inside. Admiral Vela studied the plan. You're asking for a dangerous mission, Cadet. Why should I trust you? Darren's voice was quiet but firm. Because we're Deathworlders. And danger is what we're made for. A moment of silence passed. Then Vela gave a single nod. You have my approval. Go. The infiltration. That night, the Deathworld Cadets moved like shadows across the valley. Scifi patrols scanned the area, but the humans were faster, quieter. Darren led the way, his every step measured. Behind him, Mira and Taro carried small disruption charges designed to overload the power core. At the edge of the structure, they paused. 3 guards, Mira whispered. On my signal, Darren said. In a blur of motion, the cadets struck. Before the Scifi could react, they were down, stunned by quick, precise blows. Darren gestured forward. We're in. Inside the structure, the air buzzed with energy. Green light flickered along the walls as the breach gate powered up. Taro knelt by the power core, placing the disruption charges, setting the timer. 5 minutes. Darren's eyes narrowed. Make it 3. Mira tensed. We've got company. Scifi soldiers poured into the chamber, their claws gleaming. The cadets moved as one. Mira's rifle fired in quick bursts, while Taro guarded the charges. Darren met the first wave head-on. His shock blades flashed, cutting through armor with ease. Each strike was perfectly timed. Every move designed to win. The clock ticked down. Charges set, Taro called. Fall back, Darren ordered. They sprinted toward the exit as the countdown reached 0. A blinding explosion ripped through the valley. The ground trembled as the breach gate shattered, sending waves of energy into the night sky. Victory. For now. Back at the outpost, alarms fell silent. The Scifi advance had stopped. In the command room, Admiral Vela smiled. They did it. Days after destroying the Scifi breach gate, Outpost 46 was finally quiet. Union soldiers repaired the damaged defenses, and for the first time in months, there were no alarms, no battles, just a strange, uneasy peace. Darren stepped closer. If they're sending a signal, it means they're calling for reinforcements. Admiral Vela nodded. And we can't let them finish. Rallin turned to the cadets. Your team knows the Scifi better than anyone. You'll lead the infiltration mission. Destroy that signal. Darren gave a sharp nod. We'll handle it. Into the wasteland. At nightfall, the Deathworld Cadets moved swiftly across the barren plains of Sector 9. The air was dry, and the wind howled through jagged rocks. Darren led the way, his senses sharp. Every step was careful. Any movement could reveal their position. Taro, scanning the ground, whispered, We're close. The signal is coming from beneath us. Mira glanced around. No Scifi patrols. That's not a good sign. Darren knelt, brushing his hand over a cracked metal plate hidden beneath the dirt. Here, there's an entrance. With a quick press on his wrist console, he unlocked the hatch. The metal groaned softly as it slid open, revealing a dark tunnel below. Stay sharp, he said quietly. We don't know what's waiting for us. The heart of the hive. The tunnel was cold and silent as the cadets moved deeper underground. Faint green lights pulsed along the walls, casting eerie shadows. Mira scanned the corridor ahead. Still no movement. Taro shook his head. That's impossible. The Scifi always guard their tech. Darren didn't slow down. Keep moving. At the end of the tunnel, the passage opened into a massive chamber, and at its center stood the source of the signal. A strange Scifi device floated above the ground, glowing with pulses of red and green light. Its shape twisted and shifted, humming with alien energy. Taro's voice was tense. That doesn't look like any weapon I've seen. Darren studied it carefully. It's not just a signal booster. It's something else, something bigger. Mira moved closer to the console beside the device. I can shut it down, but I'll need a few minutes. Darren nodded. Do it. Taro, cover her. As they worked, Darren scanned the shadows. His gut told him something was wrong. And he was right. The silent guardians. Without warning, the lights flickered, and the walls seemed to move. Mira froze. Darren, something's coming. Out of the darkness, Scifi guardians emerged. Taller, faster, and deadlier than the warriors they had fought before. Their bodies gleamed with black armor, and their movements were silent and smooth. Taro raised his rifle. They're not regular soldiers. What are these things? Darren drew his shock blades. They're here to protect the device, and we're in their way. The guardians moved with terrifying speed, striking without sound. Darren blocked a razor-sharp claw, his blades flashing in the dim light. Mira fired bursts from her rifle while working on the console. We're running out of time, she shouted. Darren fought harder, every strike precise and controlled. One guardian lunged for Taro, but Darren cut it down before it could reach him. Taro shot another in the chest. I thought they were supposed to be smart. Why aren't they calling for backup? They don't need backup, Darren said grimly. They think they can finish us themselves. The final countdown. Mira's fingers flew across the console. Almost there. Just a few more seconds. A guardian broke past Darren's defense, racing toward Mira. No, you don't, Taro growled, firing a disruptor shot that stunned the creature just in time. Darren finished the last guardian with a swift strike, then turned to Mira. Status. Done, she said, pulling back as the lights around the device flickered. The signal's shutting down. The alien hum grew louder, then stopped. The chamber fell into silence. Darren exhaled slowly. Mission complete. Let's get out of here. The calm before the storm. Back at Outpost 46, the cadets reported their success. Admiral Vela listened carefully, her expression unreadable. You stopped the signal, she said. But the Guardians, that means the Scifi are evolving again. Darren's face was serious. They're preparing for something bigger, and this time, they're not playing games. Mira crossed her arms. If they bring more Guardians, the next fight won't be like the others. Vela nodded slowly. Rest while you can, because the war isn't over. As the cadets left the command room, Darren's thoughts remained on the silent Guardians. The Scifi were changing, and deep down, he knew the hardest battle was still ahead. A heavy storm swept across Outpost 46, lightning flashing against the dark sky. But inside the command center, no one paid attention to the weather. Something far more dangerous loomed ahead. Cadet leader Darren stood with Mira and Taro before the holographic map. It showed the Scifi front line, but something had changed. Their forces are pulling back, Commander Raylan said, frowning. Why retreat after losing the signal device? Darren's eyes narrowed. They're not retreating. They're regrouping. This is a distraction. Admiral Vela entered, her face serious. We intercepted a Scifi transmission. They're preparing something called the Ascendant, and it's already on the move. Mira tilted her head. The Ascendant? What is it? Vela shook her head. We don't know, but it's coming toward us. Fast. Darren's voice was calm but firm. If the Scifi want to keep it hidden, it's a threat. We need to find it and stop it before it reaches Union space. Commander Raylan sighed. You're suggesting another infiltration mission. Darren nodded. We've faced worse. We'll handle it. Vela met his gaze. Then you leave at dawn. The hunt begins. As the first light touched the horizon, the Deathworld Cadets departed in a sleek reconnaissance ship. The cold silence of space stretched before them, broken only by the faint hum of the engines. Taro worked at the scanner controls, his fingers moving quickly. I'm tracking a faint energy trail. Whatever this Ascendant is, It's not using normal Xilari tech. Mira leaned against the cockpit wall. They're always adapting. But why keep this thing so secret? Darren stared at the star map. His instincts told him there was more to this. The Xilari never hid their power, unless they were afraid. Hours passed before Taro's console beeped. Got it. There's a cloaked vessel in the asteroid belt ahead. Big one. Darren's jaw tightened. Bring us in close. We'll board it quietly. The silent ship. The cadets suited up in sleek infiltration gear, each movement precise and quiet. Their ship drifted toward the massive dark shape hidden among the asteroids. Darren led the way as their shuttle connected to the alien hull. With a quiet hiss, the airlock opened, and the team slipped inside. The interior was unlike any Xilari ship they had seen. Strange symbols glowed faintly along the walls, pulsing with a cold green light. Mira scanned the hallway. No guards. That's not normal. Taro's voice was tense. Maybe they don't need guards. Darren signaled for silence, leading them deeper. The air grew heavier, as though the ship itself was alive. At the center of the vessel, they found it. A massive chamber stretched before them. Floating above the floor was a strange crystal sphere, crackling with dark energy. Around it, Xilari engineers worked silently, their movements almost mechanical. Mira's eyes widened. Is that the Ascendant? Taro checked his scanner. It's not just a weapon. It's a control device. If they activate it, they could take over our systems, or worse. Darren's voice was cold. Then we destroy it. The ticking clock. Mira pulled out a set of disruption charges. I can set these to overload the power core, but it'll take 5 minutes. Darren gave a sharp nod. Do it. Taro, watch her back. I'll cover the entrance. As Mira worked, Darren moved to the doorway. He listened, every sense on high alert. The air shifted. Something was coming. Without a sound, 2 Xilari guardians emerged from the shadows. Their black armor gleamed, claws twitching with deadly intent. Darren didn't hesitate. He activated his shock blades and lunged. The first guardian slashed at him, but Darren twisted aside, his blade cutting across its arm. Sparks flew as the creature staggered. The second guardian struck low, but Darren blocked it, countering with a swift strike to its chest. Behind him, Mira's voice was steady. Almost there. Just hold them off. Taro fired his disruptor rifle, stunning one of the guardians long enough for Darren to finish it. The last one lunged again, but Darren moved faster, striking its core and bringing it down. He exhaled slowly. Status. Done, Mira said, locking the final charge in place. We need to leave now. The escape. The cadets raced back toward their shuttle as alarms blared through the ship. The Xilari had detected the sabotage. Taro sealed the airlock as they launched, engines roaring to life. Behind them, the Xilari vessel began to tremble. Darren watched through the viewport as the disruption charges ignited. The entire ship shuddered, then exploded in a brilliant green burst, scattering debris across the asteroid field. It's done, Mira said, catching her breath. Darren allowed himself a small nod. One less threat. A warning unfolds. Back at Outpost 46, the cadets delivered their report to Admiral Vela. The stars outside Outpost 46 shone cold and distant, but inside the command center, tension filled the air. Despite the destruction of the Ascendant, the Deathworld Cadets knew that Xilari wouldn't stop. Cadet leader Darren stood by the holographic map with Mira and Taro, analyzing every detail of the Xilari's movements. They're too quiet, Mira said, frowning. No attacks. No signals. It's like they disappeared. Darren didn't relax. His instincts told him this was no retreat. It was a trap. They're planning something bigger. We just don't know what. Taro tapped a section of the map. We picked up faint energy spikes here. Sector 12. It's a dead zone, but something's moving. Before Darren could respond, the communication system beeped. Commander Raylan and Admiral Vela entered the room. "We have a problem," Vela said, her tone sharp. A Union supply convoy disappeared near Sector 12. No distress call, just silence. Darren's jaw tightened. The Xilari took them. Raylan nodded. "We can't risk losing more ships. Your team will lead the rescue mission." Mira straightened. "When do we leave?" Vela's expression was grim. "Immediately. Into the unknown." Within the hour, the Deathworld Cadets ship slipped into the black void of space. The sleek vessel hummed softly as they approached the silent stretch of Sector 12. Taro scanned the area, his fingers moving quickly. "I'm picking up faint energy signatures. No ships, but something's here." Darren leaned forward. "Stay sharp. They want us to come closer." Mira's voice was quiet but steady. "We've faced worse." The ship drifted closer, moving through a dense asteroid field. The silence pressed against them. Too quiet, too still. Suddenly, Taro's console blared. "Ambush. Incoming Xilari vessels. 3 on the left, 2 on the right." Darren reacted instantly. Evasive maneuvers. Shields up. The ship trembled as enemy fire struck the hull. Green energy blasts streaked through the darkness. But Darren's sharp commands kept them one step ahead. "They were waiting for us," Mira said, gripping the controls. Darren's voice remained calm. "Good. Now we bring the fight to them." The fight begins. The cadet ship weaved through the asteroid field, dodging enemy fire. Mira's hands moved smoothly as she maneuvered between the floating rocks. Taro fired back, his shots precise. One Xilari vessel exploded in a burst of green light. "One down," he said. Darren focused on the largest enemy ship. "Target their engines. We can't let them escape." Mira brought the ship into position as Taro unleashed a barrage of disruptor fire. The Xilari vessel shuddered, engines flickering before going dark. "They're disabled," Taro confirmed. Darren's voice was cold. "Board it. We need answers." The enemy's secret. The cadets docked with the damaged Xilari ship and entered cautiously. Inside, the air was thick and heavy, the walls pulsing with an eerie green glow. Darren led the way, every step careful and quiet. "This ship is different," Mira whispered, scanning the strange symbols on the walls. Taro checked his console. "The convoy survivors are here, life signs in the lower deck." Darren's jaw tightened. "Let's move." They reached a secured chamber and forced the doors open. Inside, Union crew members huddled, their faces pale with fear. "We thought no one would find us," one officer said shakily. "You're safe now," Darren assured them. "But why did the Xilari take you?" The officer pointed to a glowing terminal at the far end of the room. "They scanned us, studied us. They kept saying something about adapting." Mira's expression hardened. "They're learning how to fight humans better." Taro worked quickly, downloading the Xilari's research files. His face paled. "Darren, they've been experimenting with human DNA, trying to create hybrid soldiers." Darren's fists clenched. "They're not just adapting their tactics. They want to become stronger than us." Mira armed a set of disruption charges. "We can't let this ship survive." Darren nodded. "Plant the charges. We're ending this now." A narrow escape. With the survivors safely aboard their ship, the cadets returned just as the charges detonated. The Xilari vessel exploded in a bright flash, leaving nothing but debris behind. Darren watched the destruction from the cockpit, his expression unreadable. "They won't stop. They'll try again." Mira sat beside him. "And we'll stop them again." Taro, still reviewing the stolen files, frowned. "There's one more thing." The Xilari's research mentioned a new leader, the Ascendant Prime, and it's already here. Darren's voice was cold and steady. "Let them come. We'll be ready." The war isn't over. The cold silence of space hung over Outpost 46, but inside the command center, Tension crackled like a storm. The auxiliary's new leader, the Ascendant Prime, was coming. And this time, the Deathworld Cadets knew there would be no second chances. Cadet leader Darren stood with Mira and Taro around the glowing holographic map. It showed a massive Scifi flagship moving fast, straight toward Union space. Admiral Vela's voice was steady but sharp. The Ascendant Prime ship will reach us in 12 hours. If it gets past Outpost 46, the Union falls. Darren's expression was cold and focused. Then we stop it here. Mira's hands curled into fists. What's their plan? Why risk everything on one attack? Commander Raylan's face was grim. They're not attacking alone. We've detected hundreds of smaller ships, an entire invasion fleet. Taro's voice was quiet. They're bringing everything they have. Darren met Vela's gaze. We'll lead the strike team. Get us on that ship. We'll take down the Ascendant Prime from the inside. Vela hesitated. It's a suicide mission. Darren didn't flinch. We're Deathworld Cadets. We don't break. After a long pause, Vela gave a single nod. You leave in 1 hour. Good luck. The infiltration begins. The Deathworld Cadet ship raced through the darkness, weaving past auxiliary patrols. In the distance, the Ascendant Prime's flagship loomed, a towering mass of alien metal, glowing with eerie green light. Taro's fingers flew over the controls. I found a weak point, an exhaust port near the core. If we enter there, we can move undetected. Darren's voice was calm. Take us in. Mira checked her weapons. They won't let us walk through the front door. Darren smiled faintly. Good thing we never asked permission. As their ship locked onto the auxiliary vessel, Darren led the team through the airlock. The hatch slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a dark corridor bathed in green light. Stay sharp, he said quietly. The Prime will know we're here. Into the heart of the enemy. The cadets moved quickly, boots silent against the metal floor. Strange symbols pulsed along the walls. Scifi code, unlike anything they had seen before. Taro scanned ahead. The control chamber is 5 levels down. If we overload their core, it'll destroy the entire ship. Mira's voice was tight. Then let's move fast. They slipped through the winding corridors, taking out auxiliary guards swiftly and silently. Every step brought them closer to the heart of the ship and to the Ascendant Prime. As they reached the core chamber, Darren's gut twisted. Something felt wrong. Too quiet, too easy. They're waiting for us, he murmured. And he was right. The Ascendant Prime. The chamber doors slid open, revealing a towering figure bathed in emerald light. The Ascendant Prime stood at the center, tall, armored, and far more advanced than any auxiliary they had faced before. Its voice echoed coldly. Humans, you think you can stop us? Darren didn't hesitate. We're not here to talk. The Prime moved fast, too fast. Blades of energy sprang from its arms as it lunged toward them. Darren met its strike, shock blades clashing against alien metal. Mira fired her rifle, the blast sparking against the Prime's armor. It's too strong. Taro worked furiously at the terminal. I'm setting the core to overload. Just hold it off. The Prime struck harder, forcing Darren back. His arms burned with effort, but he refused to fall. We're not losing, he growled. Not today. The final blow. Mira tossed Darren a plasma charge. Use this. Aim for the core. Darren caught it, eyes locked on the Prime's chest. He dodged a blade, spinning low, and drove the charge deep into the alien's armor. The Prime staggered. Impossible. Darren's voice was ice cold. Humans don't quit. With a sharp twist, he activated the charge. It exploded in a blinding flash, sending the Prime crashing to the floor. Taro shouted from the console. Core overload in 60 seconds. Time to go. Escape and victory. The cadets ran through the burning corridors as the ship shook violently. Alarms blared as the core collapsed. Darren led the way, heart pounding. Almost there. They reached their shuttle, sealing the hatch as the engines roared to life. Mira pulled them away just as the Ascendant Prime ship exploded, sending a shockwave across space. Taro let out a breath. We did it. A new beginning. Back at Outpost 46, Admiral met them at the dock. Her expression softened with relief. You stopped the Prime, she said. The auxiliary fleet is retreating. You saved the Union. Mira smiled faintly. Told you we'd handle it. Taro stretched his arms. Can we rest now? Darren looked out at the stars. For now. But if they come back. He turned to his team. We'll be ready. Vela nodded. Because you're Deathworld Cadets. And nothing breaks you. As the stars glimmered beyond Outpost 46, one truth remained clear. Humanity always fights back, and humanity never falls.